Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have my top 10 books of 2018. The first book on this list is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is the third book in the Tawny Man trilogy, and I'd been putting this off after not really caring for Fool's Errand, really hating The Golden Fool, and thinking that maybe I wasn't going to enjoy the series as much as I had done the previous two. This book changes all of that. This book is a culmination of things that we have had percolating over the last 8 books, and yet there are still another 7 to go. There is so much going on here that I can't talk about, due to the fact that it is quite a late book in the series, but it sees another quest, which we get a lot in fantasy novels. But these books are great because of the way they look at family and they look at relationships and the allegory they have to the human world and the way that we interact with one another. And I'd been excited for this book because of the way I've seen Sam of Sam's Nonsense talk about it in the past. And I'm just going to say that this book resulted in some water falling from Charlie's eyes. I've no idea what it was, because we know that that doesn't usually happen with fiction. And yeah, there is something that happens to a character who I'm rather fond of in this series, and I could not cope for the final maybe 300 pages of this book. Maybe 200. I can't remember how long this book is now. But this book is fantastic, and if you haven't read Robin Hobb yet, then maybe you should make that a goal of 2019, especially if you're looking to get into fantasy. The next book on this list isn't one I own. It is The Hoarder by Jess Kidd, and I read this book way back in February, and it's just stuck with me because of the fact that it's a ghost story. It's gothic, it's humorous, it's just a bit mind-blowing, the amount that is fitted in here, that it just seems like the perfect book for me. It is this woman who can communicate with saints, I think. I'm pretty confident that they were saints. And then there's this mystery, and there's a hoarder, and there is a flatmate who also seems to see themselves as some sort of trans-spiritualist or medium. It is an incredible book, and if you haven't read Jess Kidd's writing, again, please go out and do so, because she is able to blend this humour and gothic in a way that I wish that I could, although that is never a book I've tried to write yet. Next is The Management Style of the Supreme Beings by Tom Holt. This book is amazing. I said it was amazing when I read it. I sped through it. It's fantastical, it's humorous. It's basically God's decided to retire. So this business comes in and they're like, do you know what? You can sin, but it's going to cost you. But God's lesser known son isn't having that. He wants things to remain as they are, but he also doesn't want to leave Earth with his father, and that's something they want. And there are people fighting against this new supreme being who's taken over, despite the fact that they've also become the supreme beings of many other star systems in the world. But that doesn't happen, and this is a battle between good and evil. It's a battle between heaven and hell. It's one of these big comedic twists on death and religion that I don't see often, but I read more of this year, and it seems to be like a subgenre I'm quite fond of. Next, we have Anansi Boys by Neil Gaiman. And yeah, I know that a lot of people don't like this book, but once again, I found it humorous. I like Neil Gaiman's writing anyway. I liked the blend of fantasy and humour in this book. Basically, Fat Charlie is at war with his brother. Things are going wrong in his life. He's really denied his heritage as being the child of a god for quite a long time. And this book is all about duality as well. And I'm going to leave a link to my review somewhere, because I think past Charlie may remember this book better than I have done. I have And After Many Days by Jowhor. Mentioned this book in my book postscript tag, but basically this is a blend of folklore and history to tell the story of a missing child. It's a family saga in a very short space of time, and it's very poetic. We have Driven by Dane Cobain. This is the first book in the Lightfold series, and is basically a locked room mystery set in the modern day, and it's a case of Where is the killer when someone is run over by a driverless car? Who's the killer? What's going on? It's all about technology. There's a great pairing between Lightfold and Miley, and this is what I wanted the Robert Galbraith books to be like. I said that about Search by D.K. Bowman, but that's very much the case here. It's as though Dane has read a lot of Agatha Christie in the past, a lot of the crime classics, and brought them into the modern day. There's mystery here, there's intrigue, there's great characterisation, great series potential, and I look forward to the future books in this series. Dane is a booktuber and authortuber as well, and I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. We have The Music Shop by Rachel Joyce. I did a vlog of this, so I'll leave a link to that. But basically, this is the 4th Rachel Joyce book that I've read, and it's fantastic. It discusses this character who is he's selling vinyl in a changing world where people are moving on to CDs. He does not want to move on to CDs because of the nostalgia that he feels for them. And this is about being left behind. And it's about people coming to find you. It's about love. It's about a lot of things. It's heartwarming. It's brilliant. You should have read it by now. Next we have Don't Call Us Dead by Danez Smith. The poems in here are some of the best poems that I've ever read. It discusses death, what it means to be black, what it means to be genderqueer. It's poetry that is incredibly current and necessary. Whilst the words in here seem somewhat simple, they carry a very deep meaning. It is a great poetry collection to just read and zone in on, and I can understand why so many people have been commending this book this year. Next we have Dying in Other Words by Maggie, an experimental novel that I've thought about since I finished it, because it's one of those that I feel as though I shouldn't like, but also I really enjoy, and it's a story that really is just a writer experimenting at the start of their career, and it's fantastic. There is this talk of like there being some sort of murder mystery in here, but it is really a book that is all about death and how people react around you to that death. It's about working class society and how everyone's only out for themselves, really. Whilst I don't think this book is for everyone, it certainly ticked the boxes for me. Finally, we have The Museum of Innocence by Orhan Pamuk. Kamal is engaged to be married to Sibel, and yet he begins an affair with a woman 12 years his junior, Fusen. This is a book that I felt creeped out by in the narrator and wondered why I'd been given it as a gift. And then I realised that my reaction to the book of this character being extremely stupid was maybe the reaction the author was going for. This book displays to me that whilst there are stories that have been told before, that if we have a need to tell them, then we should tell them in our own fashion, because Pamuk has done that here and he has done it brilliantly. I hope that if you read any of the books that are included here, that you read this one. It is quite the tome. It is a bit like an Anna Karenina for the New Age, a Turkish Anna Karenina, if you will. Kamal is narrating these incidents from his past as he puts together a museum so that he can remember everything that happened in his youth. It's a tale of allowing life to pass you by because of obsession, and how we ought to always try and stay in the present and not hold on to dreams. It is a brilliant story, and the writing in here is fantastic, and that is also in part to the translation by Maureen Freely. This is one of those books that I look forward to revisiting in the future, similarly to how I feel about all these books, but this maybe more so because I think that Pamuk just writes in such a fantastic fashion that really spoke to me, and I think is great at capturing characters. And them's the books. What are some of your favourite books of the last year? Do let me know in the comments. If you've read any of these books and would like to discuss them, then please feel free to do so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.